This is Don Stevens again. We've completed chapters 1 through 12 of the book of Judges, and tonight we're going to cover chapter 13. So let's get started. Now, in the 13th chapter of Judges, we begin with the same old refrain. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. Now, this is the 7th time that we hear this mournful refrain, if you will, in the book of Judges. The 7th apostasy, and as a result, we see a very familiar penalty from the Lord. The Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. In 2 Chronicles chapter 14, there was a prophet that came to King Asa, and this was upon his return from victory near the beginning of his reign. And he told him, he said, "The Lord is with you while you are with him, and if you seek him, he will be found of you. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you." Now that's just a basic biblical truth, which didn't apply just to King Asa. It goes for us today also. You see, the Lord will be with you if you're going to be with him. If you seek him, you'll find him. If you forsake him, he will forsake you. Children of Israel forsook the Lord. They did evil in the sight of the Lord, and God delivered them into the hands of the enemies. This time it's the Philistines. The Canaanite people, called the Philistines, populated the coastal region in the southern part of Israel. Now, one of the cities of the Philistines, Ashkelon, is still a city in Israel today. We hear a lot about the Gaza Strip. It's in the news every day. The city of Gath today is nothing but ruins. There is an Israeli settlement nearby Gath, but it's a coastal region in the southern part of Israel, which was the area that was occupied by the Canaanites, known as the Philistines. In fact, from them came the name Palestine, which is the country that we hear so much about in opposition to Israel today. Now, there was a certain man of Zorah, which is west from Jerusalem, about a third of the way to Tel Aviv. It's right at the base of what they call the Jerusalem Mountains. From Zorah, you go up to the mountains to Jerusalem. Now, this is an area where the tribe of Dan first settled. Tribe of Dan later moved up on into the northern part of the country, somewhere near Mount Hermon. It's in Upper Galilee. But the tribe of Dan originally settled in this area right next to the Philistines. Because the Philistines were tough, they found it hard to settle in that area, and they ultimately moved. Now, this man's name was Manoah, and his wife was barren. Now, that was a cultural curse. Most important thing that a woman could do in those times was to bear children. If she couldn't bear children, she was considered to be cursed by God. It sounds awful, but that's the way it was then. It basically was legal grounds for divorce. If a man's wife couldn't bear children, the man could legally divorce her. It was considered a disgrace in those days for a woman not to be able to bear children. So there was always a heavy pressure on a young girl to bear a child, so that she's not ashamed with barrenness. Now, there were other cases in the Bible. We all remember the case of Abraham's wife Sarah. In 1 Samuel, you can actually read of the case of Samuel's mother, Hannah. And there are names of many others, including Rebecca and Rachel. And we see a few of the women in biblical history who had to endure the shame of this cultural curse. Now, in the New Testament, there was Elizabeth. She was the mother of John the Baptist, and she was for years barren. And here in this text, we hear of the wife of Manoah. "But the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman and said unto her, Behold, you are barren, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Now therefore be careful, I pray thee, don't drink any wine or strong drink, nor eat anything that is unclean. For lo, you are going to conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hands of the Philistines." As a result of her barrenness, the angel of the Lord appeared and informed her that she was no longer to be barren. She was going to have a son, and she was also told that God was going to use this son to begin, that's important to remember, begin to deliver the children of Israel. And she was informed that during her time of pregnancy, she was not to drink any wine, no strong drink, and she wasn't to eat anything that was unclean. And when the child is born, a razor is never to come into his head, you're never to cut his hair, for he's going to be a Nazirite and dedicated to God. Now, Numbers chapter 6 deals with the vow of the Nazirite. However, the description in number 6 was only for a specific period of time, not a lifetime. During this period of time that the person was dedicated to being a Nazirite, the person was to totally dedicate their life to God. So it could be for a month or a shorter or longer period, but for the child to be, it was for a lifetime. For Samson, it was a lifetime that he was dedicated. Now, to take the Nazirite vow, a person would first shave their head and their beard. There wasn't to be any hair on them anywhere at all. Now then, after they'd done the shaving, for the month or whatever period of time they were dedicating to seeking the Lord, the person would seek the Lord. They wouldn't work, they wouldn't cut their hair, they would not drink any wine or strong drink, and they wouldn't drink anything that came from the vine. I mean, even to the point of not eating grapes. Now, at the end of this dedication period, they would again shave their head and their face and take the hair to the priest, and he would burn it at the altar as an offering to the Lord. Now, this was the vow of consecration to God as a Nazirite. You probably recall that in the book of Acts, chapter 17, I believe, we can read how Paul made such a vow. He took a Nazirite vow and dedicated himself totally to God for a specific period of time. Now, this was to prepare himself for the feast because he was heading back to Jerusalem. Here, of course, we read how this young man who is to be born is not to have a time limit on his commitment, but it was to be for a lifelong commitment to God. He's going to belong to the Lord and be committed to God throughout his life. During his entire lifetime, a razor is never to come to his head. So the woman came and told her husband, and she said, "There was a man of God that came to me, and his countenance, his face, was like an angel of God." And the Old English translation, the word used here is terrible. When you see that word in the Old English translation, it literally translates awesome. So she saw this angel of the Lord as awesome. But I did not ask him where he came from, and he didn't tell me his name. So now she comes home and tells her husband, "I met this interesting guy and had a face like an angel. Don't know where he came from. I didn't ask him what his name was, but he told me that I was going to conceive and bear a son, and that I wasn't to drink any wine or strong drink, and that I wasn't to eat any unclean thing. For the child is to be dedicated as a Nazirite to God from the womb. And this goes until the day of his death. His whole life is going to be spent committed unto God." So Manoah, her husband, prayed, and he asked the Lord to let the man of God come again to us and teach us what we should do for this child that is to be born. So God listened, or he hearkened to the voice of Manoah. The angel of God came again to the woman as she sat in the field, but her husband wasn't with her. So she said, "Would you wait here for a minute?" And she ran with haste and got her husband, and she said to him, "Behold, the man has appeared unto me that came to me the other day." So Manoah arose and went with his wife, and they came to the man and said unto him, "Are you the man that spoke with this woman?" And he said, "I am." And Manoah said, "Now let your words come to pass. We would like to have a son, but how shall we order the child? What shall we do to him?" And the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, "Just everything that I told the woman. Be careful that you do that. She may not eat of anything that comes of the vine, neither let her drink any wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. and all that I have commanded her, let her observe. So Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, I pray thee, let us detain you until we can make ready for you a little shish kebab, a kid. And then they used those little goats for shish kebab. And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, though you detain me, I will not eat of your bread, and if you want to offer a burnt offering, you must offer it to the Lord. For Manoah did not know that he was an angel of the Lord. And so Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, what is your name? That when all of this comes to pass, we'll be able to say, well, you know, we'll want to give you honor. We'll want to recognize you for this. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, why do you ask me my name, seeing that it is wonderful? Now the word translated here as secret, it's the same word that's used in Greek in Isaiah's prophecy concerning Jesus. His name shall be called Wonderful. Why do you ask my name, seeing that it is wonderful? So Manoah took the little goat with the meal offering, and he put it on a rock, offered it unto the Lord, and the angel did wondrously as Manoah and his wife looked on. For it came to pass when the flame went up toward heaven from off the altar, that the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on, and they fell on their faces to the ground. And the angel of the Lord did not appear again to Manoah and to his wife, and Manoah knew that it was the angel of the Lord. And he said to his wife, we're going to die. Because we've seen God, we're going to die. We've had it. That's it. You know, it's all over. We've seen God. His wife, having a little more presence of mind, said to him, if the Lord wanted to kill us, why would he tell us we're going to have a son? How can we have a son if God kills us? And why would he have received our burnt offering and our meal offering? And so the woman bare a son, called his name Samson, which refers to the sun. And you have Maneah-Dan right near the valley of Zorah, between Eshtaol and Zorah, and the child grew. The Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan between Zorah and Eshtaol. Okay, so here we have the birth of the child. It's announced by the hand of the Lord, and he was to be truly a special child. You know, God has a plan for each of us, from the beginning of our lives until our final breath. In chapter 14, we're going to begin to see this fascinating story of Samson unfold. I truly believe that God has prepared a place for us in every place that we go. I think that everything that comes into our life is part of God's overall plan. And I think we can see that both in this chapter and then the rest of the story of Samson. Everyone has a purpose, and God will take advantage of that and take us where we need to be. So that concludes this chapter. We'll go on to the next one right away. So until next time, these are just my thoughts on chapter 13 of the book of Judges. Until next time, God bless you.